want you to watch this video of a woman stumbling on some steps for a moment. And as you do so, the question I have for you is, who is responsible for this fall? I hope that most people watching would say nobody but herself. She is personally to blame for this accident. She wasn't looking where she was going. She was careless. It's all on her. Nobody else's fault but her own. However, there's a whole legal industry that would come in around the stumble, and which indeed did come in around the stumble, as you can see. And they would say, hang on a second, don't be so quick to take responsibility here. Play the victim. Because if we can pin the blame on someone else for this fall, maybe there's some compensation in it for you. If we can blame the local authority or the workman who installed these stairs or the company whose land these are on, maybe we can make you rich. Play the victim. Where there's pain, there's a claim, as the saying goes. Now at that point, the woman might be sorely tempted and her sinful nature might start to exert some pressure. Even though she knows deep down that she's responsible for this, greed would start imagining all the money she might win if she was to pursue this path. Vanity would start imagining all the things she could buy with that money and how much that would impress her friends and family. Pride would tell her that she could save some face, she could save some embarrassment if she was able to pin this on someone else. And if she succumbed to those pressures and decided to sue, the problem is there's a very good chance she would win in today's landscape. However, in the process of winning, it's clear that someone innocent would then have to lose. She would boost her own life, but someone else's would be devastated by that. She would enrich herself financially, but someone innocent would then be impoverished. Some workman would get fired, some maintenance contractor, whoever installed those stairs or was supposed to maintain them, they would have to carry the can. Because remember, for every victim, there must be a villain. So the moment she casts herself as a victim, the question automatically becomes, well, who's the villain here? Who's to blame for this? Who do we punish for this? And if she fraudulently is casting herself as a victim, in that moment, she would be unfairly casting someone innocent as a villain. You see what I'm trying to say here? Every time someone fraudulently plays the victim to boost their own life circumstances and to enrich themselves, there's some innocent person who is automatically being devastated by that as a false villain, if that's the right way to put it. Therefore, playing the victim is never a victimless crime. There's always some innocent who's having to carry the blame. Remember a few episodes back, I was talking about women who go to the gym in revealing outfits and then set up cameras to record themselves, very obviously in the hope that some man might glance in their direction. And the idea is that if he does, she can post it on social media and claim to be a victim of sexual harassment. And that will no doubt boost her own social status. We've already spoken in the series about all the benefits that now come with victimhood. But in the process of casting herself fraudulently as a victim, and trying to boost her own life circumstances, there's some innocent guy who's going to be destroyed by that. Someone who is just trying to go to the gym to do a workout is now going to go viral on social media, be publicly hounded and castigated. He could lose his job. The moment she fraudulently casts herself as a victim, someone unfairly gets cast as a villain and is destroyed by it. It's impossible to fraudulently cast yourself as a victim without that having a negative impact on someone else's life. For every victim, there must be a villain. So for every fraudulent victim, there must be a false villain. Now, because intersectional theory predicates itself entirely on this victim-villain power dynamic, it's creating a lot of false villains, or innocent villains, if you will. Intersectionality encourages people to grasp for victimhood because that's how you get status, platform, money, and opportunity, as we've already seen in the series. But in the process, as everyone strives for it, often fraudulently, it means unfairly tearing down innocent people in order to make that happen. So your life is boosted, but others are unfairly destroyed in the process. So you see the mechanism that I'm trying to describe here. Jordan Peterson spoke about this dynamic a while ago, but within a slightly different context. I'm still going to play it because it will be helpful. It's still worth listening to within the context of this video.
Nellie Bowles, who wrote an article about me for the New York Times, which was a very devastating article in many ways and very serpentine and subtle. She, 3 years later, she wrote another article about what it was like to work for the New York Times when she was working there and the tricks that the journalists played, including her. And she said that the game was to devastate someone else's reputation in the attempt to boost yours, right? So you could think about it as a game of comparative moral standing. So the journalist's trick is to trick you into saying something that will end your career, essentially.
Their social status stands on the shoulders of yours.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's kind of the game that intersectional theory has set up in our society as a whole today. It's a game of victims and villains, and the idea of the game is to portray someone else as a villain so that in the process you can portray yourself as a victim and gain the rewards of that. Devastate someone else's life so that yours can be boosted. That is the game that's now going on throughout the Western world. That's what this whole intersectional framework is about, really. Tearing people above the horizontal line down as villains so that the people below the horizontal line can successfully portray themselves as victims who are then glorified, adulated, and enriched. I feel like I'm doing a really bad job with this episode today. I've got to be honest. This is not a good week for me. I hope this is making sense. It feels like I'm not really communicating as clearly as I would like to. And if you're new to this channel, then don't judge me on this one. I promise I'll do better going forward, but I just feel like I'm not really explaining this well. I hope it's making sense. But with this in mind, we've now reached about the halfway point in this series. And up until now, we've just been outlining the general problems with intersectionality. What we're going to do now, as we now transition into the second half of the series, is to look at each of these points on the matrix individually. And what I want to prove before we finish this series is that it's a really bad idea to tear down the things above the horizontal line, as the woke would like to do. The things above the horizontal line are not villainous, and that if we do this, we're going to attack and tear down a lot of good, a lot of things that are necessary for a happy, healthy, prosperous society. And similarly, I want to prove that if we raise up and glorify everything below the horizontal line, as the woke would like to do, we will end up raising up much that is evil. Now, not everything below the horizontal line is bad. I have to make that very, very clear, but some of it is. And if we raise it up injudiciously, we're going to raise up some evil. Indeed, by pursuing intersectional theory as a whole, we're going to invert good and evil. We'll start calling things good that are evil and start calling things evil that are good. And as the Bible tells us, that's going to be a really bad thing for us. It says, what sorrow awaits people who do this, who say that evil is good and good is evil, who say that dark is light and light is dark, who say that bitter is sweet and sweet is bitter. But that's what we're going to do if we pursue intersectional theory. And we're going to expand on this a bit further in the second half of this series.